So good morning, everyone. I think that we'll start our webinar. So welcome everyone on digital innovation in pharma. So 3 ways to deliver success. Today's workshop webinar will be recorded, so I have to inform you about that. And if you have any questions, feel free to write it down in the chat box. I'll collect them, and in the end of this discussion, I'll ask those questions to the presenters. So welcome, Szymon and Joy. Gentlemen.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
We'll start with a short introduction just to tell you who we are and why we are here, and then we'll move straight to the topic. We both with Joy, want to focus on the our experience and more like practical side of the process. So I hope you'll enjoy it. And as Pavel mentioned, feel free to ask questions on the chat. We plan a short Q&A session at the end, and of course, if you want to follow up after the meeting, we are both with Joy available. But let's start with a short intro. So I'm Szymon Heliosz. It might be easier just to call me Simon. I'm working as a senior UX designer for NoA Ignite. We are running multiple projects. A few of them around the pharma industry. We are helping companies in those rough times we are having right now. So we've been recently launching several projects for the pharma industry, mostly around digital training, which is kind of there was a lot of innovation involved here. And I'll probably speak more about the process, but also technical part of the innovation in pharma. And now meet Joey.
Thanks, Szymon. So yeah, I'm Joey Moore. I work in the product team at Optimizely. So I spend a lot of time working with customers, with our partner community, with the analyst community, looking at the kind of the wider ecosystem. So work with lots of pharma and healthcare clients, but the clients across lots and lots of different industries as well, really helping them to accelerate their digital adoption and their digital transformation projects. And Optimizely itself, we're over 1,000 people now. When offices were still a thing, we used to go into offices. We got 32 global offices, and we serve about 9,000 brands, and that's across 30 to 40,000 different websites. So a significant global footprint across multiple sectors, with healthcare and pharma being a particular focus area as well. So really looking forward today, and hopefully some of the things we're talking about can help some of the people in your companies to accelerate that kind of digital adoption. So I guess to kick off with, in terms of the 3 questions with the key topics, Szymon, why do you think these are important? And is this what you're hearing when you're speaking to customers and prospective customers in terms of sort of their priorities?
Yes. So as I mentioned, the webinar is kind of our response to the frequently asked questions or more challenges that we are both with our partners, with our clients, facing on a daily basis. The term innovation is quite broad, but basically we talk about incorporating new technologies to It's not just our experience coming from the projects. Recently, we wanted to validate our assumptions about the process. So we ran a quite broad survey around the pharma industry, better understand the daily challenges in innovation. Our hypothesis was that, as I mentioned, it's not about creativity and ideas. There are a lot of ideas just floating around, but the innovation process in the pharma industry is mostly about, I guess, that as we assumed, about avoiding obstacles and all the challenges on the way. So we ran a digital survey. We got a response from 84 specialists and decision makers from the pharma industry. And we asked what are the critical barriers for developing digital products. And yeah, we, of course, everyone would assume that the budget is the key showstopper here. But looking at the answers, it's a bit more complex. So the limitations are not necessarily in financing, but it's more around the staff and resources. Of course, on our digital pharma partners side, there's a lot of people pointing at the insufficient know-how about new technologies and about innovation in general, a lack of digital strategy, which is, I guess, always a burden in these days, as times everything changes fast and you need to adapt fast to it. And of course, the rules and regulations. This is what we expect that this topic will pop up. So it was interesting to validate those assumptions, and yeah, we see that there are some severe obstacles on the way when you want to innovate around the pharma in that industry, and we wanted to address those challenges and offer some ideas, answers, and solutions how to avoid them.
So that's a pretty big topic, and lots of organizations are going to sort of struggle to prioritize their digital capabilities. You know, some of the things you talked about in terms of lack of resources, lack of know-how, and I suppose there's lots of organizations out there that will know some of the things that they should be doing, but it's that prioritization of that piece. So how can you help companies focus on the things that really matter and that will go on and drive that experience?
Yeah, there's first of all, the maturity level in the pharma industry is, I would say, extremely high, and that means that also marketers and digital specialists, or in general, people responsible for the digital market, are aware of the challenges that they are facing, and they look for specialists to avoid them. I would say that the key blockers are identified, and there's a will to challenge them and to move faster. We during this our also discussions with clients, we see that one of the key challenge is the technology, which is kind of it was maybe a bit of a surprise for us, but then we understood it a bit better, that the technology sometimes is one of the blockers on the way to innovation, and that it kind of focuses all the things that we mentioned during that slide. So, but we'll jump into the details a bit more in a minute.
And I suppose when you sort of touched on a lot of the companies that you're working with are quite mature companies, and you know, maybe they're very well established, they can be quite traditional, but I suppose on the flip side, it means that they've probably already got legacy systems in place, and legacy technology and legacy processes. Is that something you see in the companies that you work with?
Yes, that's I would say that's something probably that happens with every project. So we when we talk about established, mature, and quite, I would say, large organizations, they rarely come to the table with just a clear paper. Now there's already a lot of systems built, connected. There's been a lot of investment in those systems, and the single thought about changing them and moving to a new one, and it's not something that that our partners want to figure out, because it's always it comes up with a lot of challenges. So we can build always inside those systems. We have experience, we have capacity, and we know how to do that. But that means that we are kind of conservating the legacy. So we quite often try to and encourage our partners to build not necessarily outside of their ecosystem, because maintaining several different instances of technology, it's time consuming and resources consuming. So we focus more on connecting their existing systems and connecting them with the new technologies and new solution, so they can leverage the new ideas, but without just scrapping off all the things that they have developed up to this point. So it's mostly about connections, what we do, and we have a like framework for that. We often use we use Optimizely solutions here to move fast, and what we try to do and where we are successful is that we are unblocking the technology. So we are the technology is not a blocker anymore, and we have a more broad view how to leverage all the new technologies and apply them to the existing systems. And when we talk about new technologies, we had a discussion. And we asked also a question to our partners, which emerging technologies they find applicable. This doesn't mean that they're already building them, but this is something that they keep an eye on, and that's interesting for the perspective. And as you see from the results, Pharma is up to date, and they look at all the things that are hot topics, and that will stay hot topics, whether it's AI or IoT or just basically handling big data. So that's quite interesting. That you can definitely say that Pharma is up to date, but the implementation is not the easiest part.
So it looks like the aspiration is certainly there, and the knowledge within these organizations. So, I mean, were you surprised by that in terms of what you expected to see?
No, not really. I'd say that Pharma has innovation in its DNA. It's all about research and looking for new ideas, new solutions. So it's quite natural that that all those pharma organizations are looking forward, looking to the future, and trying to benefit from all the new technologies that we have in the market.
So how can they sort of go from this sort of this legacy stage, and how can they kind of accelerate that adoption in their organization so they can start to kind of take advantage of some of these sort of more modern tool sets and modern capabilities?
Yeah, so this is the moment when digital experience platforms step in. So it's kind of like a broad concept. It's a different way of thinking about your digital ecosystem. That it's founded a bit on the fact that we are already systems in place, but they are rarely well connected. Even the silos, the concept of silos in organization is often visible in the digital solution. Existing solutions are not really often quite not well connected, and they're not they're not supporting communication and processes around the companies. So what we've been discussing with our clients is that they not necessarily have to build on top of their existing digital system, but they can extract what they need from that, and they can move it to a separate, more flexible and say more complex, not necessarily complex, but more scalable system. So what we quite often do is we connect with the existing system, and then build dynamic integrations that allow us to, at the same time, incorporate new services and new technologies. But we can every time we can reuse everything that organization already has. So just a simple example, if there's a whole system of roles and permissions and access already built on the organization side, and we don't want to create new one for the new solution, so we can easily reuse it. We can reuse the data, the personal data, of course, if it's possible, and so we can benefit from all the knowledge that organizations has already gathered and built, and move it to the new solution, where we can handle it easy. We can have a better overview of what's going on in the system. We can make it more personalized. We can distribute it to various different touch points and channels. We can have more advanced data tracking, but what's mostly important, that we can add easily or at better pace and better speed with better results, new technologies to that. So at this stage, you are less restricted by what you already have, but at the same time, you're not building a completely new system. It's all about connections, and it's all about flexibility and scalability.
That's fantastic. And I suppose what's driving a lot of this change, we see this across multiple sectors as well, is this kind of heightened sense of digital expectation. How healthcare professionals and how the general public, what their expectations are, have changed significantly over the years. And this, and what they expect their digital engagement with any business or organization to look like should be, that bar has been set by the last great online experience they had. So is this something you see, and how are you sort of rising to that challenge?
Yeah, and everyone benchmarks to the top level experience they have with other solutions that are not necessarily connected to the pharma industry. So they want to transfer the best experience to their solutions. And this is what is interesting. It's not only for the end customer, so in our case for the HCPs, but also for the internal customer, for the staff, for the teams. So there's everyone tries to remove the gap between experience in their daily digital life, which I think is great, and this is the right direction. We shouldn't be forced to use solutions that are not up to date, and we are here to help and to understand that we understand that need, and we try to improve the experience wherever it's possible. And our partners in pharma industry, they are open for that. This is usually the first topic that's in the brief or that pops up during the discussion. We want to improve experience. It's quite broad term, but I guess we understand what's needed here. So that's so part of the innovation process is always about improving experience in many or in single areas, depending on the project. So, I would like to transfer maybe those needs that we talk. So we have a need on our client sides to improve the experience, but sometimes technology is quite or at least the existing legacy systems are not helping here. Quite often you can improve, but unfortunately up to a certain level. And that's the case. So while the need is to have smooth integrations and incorporate new technologies to improve experience or just to explore new markets or new ideas, and there's a need for something which is scalable, accessible, and customizable, and that's what we try to and what we deliver and what we work on to improve improve that experience, but with allowing to integrate easily with new solutions.
And I suppose that customization for us is certainly key, because you have to be able to turn on at marketplace. We have multiple connectors that support things like compliance, digital asset management, CRM, SEO. So there's lots of things, so you can easily connect with those other systems, but at the same time ensuring that things like ISO 27001 compliance is in place. We have the content API, so you can use some of that more modern technology. So yeah, it sort of goes hand in glove in terms of that the more modern side, but also those things that you need to be cognizant of specifically in this sector.
Yeah, and we talk about organizations that are operating on the global market, managing multiple projects, products, branches, as you name it. So it's rarely one or two or three systems. When we create a graph or architecture of the solutions, there's plenty of bigger and smaller tools in place that we want to easily connect but also use the way we want. So and around that, or maybe above that, as we see, there's always the case of security. So during all those meetings, all those discussions with a tech team on our client side, the security aspect is also always super important, and that's one of the key factors also, and that decides on how the solution is gonna look like.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we mentioned that flexibility in terms of connecting with different solutions, but there's another layer of flexibility which I think is more connected with innovation. So there's when you innovate and there's the idea, and this is the experience from our latest projects, things tend to change mid-process. Just a simple example: in the middle of the development, there's a sudden change coming from the legal department. So we need to strongly adapt to the new solution. So we spent quite a lot of time on figuring out how to innovate, how to develop, how to deliver in a constantly changing circumstances. So innovation is unpredictable, and it should be unpredictable to a certain level. And we in our projects, and this is where the XP is also helpful. We focus a lot on developing and building in a way that allows you to change during. So a change in the environment, legal part, or whenever is not a showstopper for the project. We can pivot in a minute of it and move forward without losing the pace and without undermining the idea. So the modularity that the XP provides, and it comes on each level. I think that's one of the foundations of innovation, that it should allow you to change and adapt.
Yeah, and that's what we talk about. We talk about the composability of the solution. It means that you can take advantage of the pieces which you need now, but if things do change, then there's other parts that you can start to take advantage of. And that is, I think, it's that flexibility and ability to the customization capability means that you're able to create those right digital experiences and essentially future-proof your investment. As well as things change, you need to change along the way.
Yeah, I would say one of the common examples, and I always enjoy it when this happens, is that when you build a first version MVP or a pilot or a project, usually you deliver it for a specific market, just to have a test run and see how it will perform, if it makes sense, if it's a good solution. And we quite often have situations where in the middle of the delivery, we have new additional markets wanting to join in. So the decision makers, they see the presentation about the new concept that's being developed, and they just want to get on that train, get on board. So we quite often are adding new markets, and that means new databases. That means, of course, localization in terms of translation, but also maybe some specific local legal requirements. So this composability of a DXP allows us to incorporate new markets, engage more people, and have a bigger, more interested audience, and they don't have to wait for that, which I think is great. And that's of course it always causes some additional costs, like translation, or maybe setting up a separate database, or having a separate integration. But in general, the costs of that investment and the cost of growth of your innovation are, I would say, from our partners, they are acceptable. So which is great.
And I think one of the other things we hear around in terms of the data that we see, that all these solutions and different things are generating. So when we first engage with a client, one of the first things they're talking about is saying, hey, we know we have the data, we've got it in different silos across the organization, whether that's sort of a business function or maybe by region. And so they're not being able to pull that data together, to harmonize that data and get that better understanding, so that they can go on to make these kind of data-driven decisions. Is that something that kind of echoes your experience?
Yes, that's happening. The data is the data should be in one place, while usually they are in many places, and comparing them is difficult. And using them in the real time, just feeding your system with them, it gets quite complicated. While of course the holy grail in this process is always to deliver a proper and really detailed personalization to your either end customers or your team, and that's like, I think that's natural in the pharma industry. The actual usage and handling of the data is quite difficult. So when we talk about real data, it's not just about, well, placing that line of code that will give you that information, but it's to build it around to build a whole overview of the data that you are handling, of course always with security in mind, but that means fetching those data from different systems, placing them in one place where you can analyze them, but also you can then come back and make actual usage of this the to deliver better content or to just improve what you're doing. So that data handling, it's I would say that the challenge here is not just with having those data, but making a real usage out of them.
Yeah, I mean, so something we've seen significantly over the last few months is there's been big important changes in the way that some of the tech platforms are handling data, and the way that the governments are looking at how data is moving around the world, is the importance of first-party data and actually owning your data. So with the Optimizely DXP, the Optimizely data platform allows you to pull all that data together in a single location and then harmonize that data and then be able to act on that data as well. So you know, really focusing on that important customer business data.
Yeah, because that's where we are heading. So that's the personalization, which is the holy grail. And when we talk about the personalization, we really mean delivering a really dedicated content, not only just the basic A/B versions, which sometimes presented as a personalization. We talk about managing a lot of data and having your ecosystem feed the channels with the right content. And when we talk about channels, I think that's the other topic which is super important, that it's not a single channel anymore. We have omni-channel journeys, and the usage of our systems can happen in various contexts, and we need to be ready for that. To, of course, to deliver, not only to deliver proper content which is unionized and consistent, but that goes also hand in hand with the data management. So you want to track data from the different touch points and different channels, and that's how you want to build your team and build your process and your product. But that's where it brings us to the topic, and I think that's always kind of an important challenge, because you have all the data, you have all the systems, but then at the end you need to have people who are able to run it. And and by be able to run it, I mean that they have time and the capacity to actually use all the tools, all the data, and the solutions that you build, so they can use them on daily basis. So there's several layers, I would say, to improve your process and your team's efficiency, and DXP is also, I would say, quite really useful here. As I mentioned, in most of the cases, we talk about organizations that it's not just one single website; it's a whole ecosystem that needs to cover different markets, branches, products, different target groups. So this is running, building content, creating, analyzing, just keeping it alive. It takes a lot of time. So we experienced that extracting part of the functions from the legacy systems and building a more flexible tool that can cover those processes, that can keep your content in one place, that can keep all the versions and all the elements of the content in one place. That saves a lot of time on your team, because it's the solution is not only to scale up the team. We know that this is relatively easy. But if the team has to work on the same legacy system that's not really supporting their daily experience with content management or running the whole websites, that's not going to help at all. So that's what DXP has built in. So the localization, multi markets, and ability to run plenty of products campaigns but often using the same data or the same assets, that can save a lot of time. Yeah, and also the other aspect that was quite important is that when you decrease the workload of your team, but also you're able to outsource tasks, which is it's always difficult with the organization to outsource their internal processes. But DXP and this whole, let's say, connected approach to your ecosystem allows you to extract some of the functions, maybe whether this is translation or data analysis, whatever is needed, depending on organization. But you can extract parts of your process and even outsource it to consultants or to other companies. So that's one of the, I would say, also important features when you have the, let's say, better distributed functionalities around your ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that's so important. So we have tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of users who are logging in every day, and it's around the efficiency and how easily they can get their job done. But then also using AI and machine learning to do some of the heavy lifting in terms of recommendations around what content to show, what workflows to introduce, and just how to really improve the experience of the end user, as well as the improvement to the editor and the merchandiser who's using our systems all the time to make them as efficient as possible.
Yeah, that's right. Because when we discuss it with our partners, we quite often mention that this is not only about adding new solution to your system or building new framework or another tool. The thing is that you need to be able to run it and to extract most out of it. And this requires that we spend quite a lot of time in those projects to discuss with the teams what are the process, what are the workflows, what are the needs. So we are trying to make the technology enabler another blocker, as I mentioned earlier. So we actually want the system to support also innovative process at the organizations. The last thing I wanted to share is kind of our experience from the latest projects, and this is how you should set up your innovation team. Of course, it is. I think it's applicable to most of the cases, although some local conditions might require something else. But from our experience in the last projects is. A team that can develop fast should consist, of course, well, I would say the project owner. So the person that can actually make decisions or distribute the decisions around the company. We see that this is very in innovative process. We need to always involve a tech architect or a tech specialist on the client side, just strictly from the day one. Even if we talk about just, let's say, experience or features or user flows or the vision of the innovation of the new product, we involve the tech architect from day one, especially when we work with already existing legacy systems, so we can predict and plan all the needed connections, and we can predict what can go wrong, and from the first during the first phase, and just be prepared for that. Researcher, data analyst, that's kind of like a foundation of every innovative project. Sometimes we work with researchers and analysts on our partners side. Sometimes we use our own resources when we want to support our clients. So that's also a must, and also having those people from day one or even previously to the project, that's always helpful. The other tip is to basically to involve the legal department also from the very beginning. Usually the process goes like that you innovate, you come with ideas, you have already some prototypes, and you present it later to the legal department for acceptance, and then things tend to get a bit messy. So my tip is to work with the legal department from the very beginning, also with people responsible for different markets and different regions. You can be prepared, much better prepared for the future and for the growth once you involve your legal team from the very beginning as partners in the projects.
In my experience as well, that they're very happy to be involved in the very beginning as well. For them, to work on that kind of progressive and incremental way is much better than finding out about something a few months down the line and then having to make a call on it. They'd much prefer to be involved early and make the whole project much smoother.
Yeah, and they influence and they shape and they co-create the project with us, which I think is great, because there's been a lot of great ideas that didn't reach the development phase because of the legal difficulties, and in most of the cases they can be avoided. And then so when they have influence on the project and we shape it together, the chances for success they just grow significantly. And one of the tips that I think that's also had a great influence on our latest projects, and it's also a bit connected with the legal part, is to have a medical writer. We've been involving medical specialists, content specialists that have experience in the medical or pharma area, and this improved our work significantly. Meaning the whole process of acceptance and dealing with the specifics of the pharma environment, things just went way faster with people with having that kind of experience, like a medical background, or not necessarily even medical background, but experience in writing for the pharma. But of course, that's we build the teams together with our partners, and we sometimes specialists on our side or on the client side, but we always want to make sure we have those type of people involved from the very beginning, and it was only beneficial. So I would strongly recommend that.
Fantastic. So Szymon, you've sort of demonstrated that yourself and the team have a huge amount of expertise and knowledge around the industry and how organizations can kind of advance that digital maturity. So what's the how do people sort of get in touch or find out more about what you're doing, and maybe speak to you about some of the challenges that they're facing? No doubt some of the people joining us today will be facing some of the challenges we've talked about, or some very specific ones to a particular scenario. Is there, how do you sort of go about engaging with customers like that?
What we do, we start projects. We love to start projects with let's like a short consultation phase. Whether this is a project that's already in a like planning phase, or it's already been kicked off, or a project is blocked and needs some acceleration. We set up short 1 to hour meetings with partners on the client side, and we discuss the challenge, and we evaluate the challenge in terms of what's needed, what kind of team is needed, and what we do is basically we aim to create an actionable and kind of a manageable roadmap for that innovation process, whether it starts with a discovery phase or it's already development. But we are let's say assessing the topic, assessing the challenge, building the team also on our side to move the project forward, and then we can start with the actual work. But those consultations and those meetings have been only beneficial, and it helps us to understand the challenge and address, let's say, more like practical solution. So yeah, so guys, if you want to discuss your projects, or you start a project, you want to set up a team, you want to kick off in a proper way, feel free to reach us, and we'll be happy to share our more of our experience and learn more about your challenge.
Thanks, Szymon. That's super helpful. So as we move on to the Q&A session, I saw one question come in already. We've had a couple more, but just one around wearables and IoT. There were quite different values in that very first graph in terms of how people are responding in terms of some of the aspirational tech. I mean, my take on it is that I think that some of those things are, if we look at maybe some of the wearables market could be more consumer focused, whereas maybe some of the IoT stuff could be more sort of industry and sort of professional focus, and there'll be this real those two things are really coming together in terms of, you know, what years ago, if someone was, you know, wanting to consistently measure their heart rate or sort of other health check monitors, you know, that was regarding sort of specialist kit that they would have to be carrying around with you. But as so many of us now have Apple Watches and Fitbits and, you know, the capabilities of our mobile phones, you know, I really see that coming together, and that's a kind of I suppose that democratization of health data in terms of, you know, everyone now can easily manage their own health things. So maybe that is the really coming together of sort of, you know, the more consumer-based wearables and the more sort of professional IoT solutions.
Yeah, it's happening. We see a lot of ideas and projects around this topic. While I would say what's interesting that the main challenges and concerns are similar to other projects. In this case, with the prices of production getting lower and lower, budget, it's less of a case. But topics like security, data handling, personality, this is the major factor that we need to take into account in projects like that. And the concerns about security will only grow. So we need to make sure that all the systems they can address that, especially that we're talking about fetching and distributing data from personal clients to the huge systems. So that's super important.
And I suppose one of the other things I get asked a lot about is keeping projects on track. You know, we've already sort of alluded to the fact that, you know, once one part of the organization recognizes that, you know, some part is innovating things and they want to get involved, you know, as technology is moving so quick over a longer project, then the new capabilities might become available, and, you know, there's always the danger of scope creep. And, you know, if you committed to specific timelines and deliveries for a project, how do you work to keep those online? I know that's sort of a concern for a lot of customers.
That's the actionable roadmap I mentioned. It's rarely fixed for them. When you talk about even a short projects, our latest innovation project took us, I think, 5 months from the ideation phase to delivery, and the scope was updated. Has been updated during this time. So yeah, that when you plan and when you deliver it with flexibility in mind, some adaptations are possible. Of course, I'm not going to promise that anything, everything can be like added, updated, or changed. But when you design, when you plan, design, and deliver with some flexibility in mind, adding new markets, maybe adding some features, or maybe removing some features in the middle of the process because there's a new research and we consider them redundant. That flexibility is a key here, and it helps a lot.
And I suppose it just really better reflects reality, isn't it? It's that things will change, and so making sure you set your project up so that you can handle those changes is essentially future-proofing that investment.
Yeah, once you embrace the change coming, then it's a whole lot easier, and you have kind of a different mindset when developing that. Of course, it's it's easy to have a fixed scope, all the features, all the scenarios, case studies described in the backlog. That's great, but with innovation, it's not that simple. And when you have a new insight, new idea, new research on another new data, you don't want to drop it and leave it for the phase 2 of the project. You want to incorporate it right now. And in many of those cases, it's possible.
That's super interesting. Thank you. So I think we're kind of up for time. So Szymon, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us in terms of that knowledge as well, in terms of the real life knowledge on the ground. And is any Szymon said that if you want to get in touch to take advantage of that consultation, just get a one-to-one session to really help address any challenges you may face, then do reach out.
And regarding maybe those consulting sessions, those consultations, I often invite my friends from the office, the tech advisors. So that's so we have that tech perspective present from the very beginning. So, and I strongly encourage you to do the same. So when you have meetings, invite the tech specialist on your side. This speeds up the process and delivery a lot.
So gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for a great webinar. Soon it will be available on our social media channels. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach us via LinkedIn or Facebook directly, and we can prepare the consultation with Szymon for you or answer any questions around this subject. So thank you very much and wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.